Everyone's got someone they love to hate. That doesn't exclude me or you. And frankly, I could not disagree with the NFL rankings even more. Well, yes, some of these were pretty violent rivalries in the day. Some of them went about as stale as leaving a salad in your fridge overnight. Now, here I'm going to highlight some of the rivalries that offer a good dose of bad blood, hatred between each other, playoff implications, geographical area, or just having a great game against each other that always ends with at least a few bruises or injuries. Nevertheless, let's take a look and see what the best rivalries are for the time being that actually matter. Unlike, say, Raiders-Steelers. Look, the 70s ended like fucking 50 years ago. Anyway. Number 10. Now, this one even goes back to the 60s for longtime dominance of what was then the AFL West. But lately, both teams have actually been in a struggle to take control of the AFC West. And it's come out in the Chiefs' favor. However, the Chargers aren't holding back under any means. They still have a great offense led by Melvin Gordon, Phillip Rivers, and Melvin Ingram. And as for the Chiefs, that's pretty much a no-brainer. You have Patrick Mahomes, who's the living cheat code. You got Tyreek Hill. They had Kareem Hunt. But with an offense that's dominated the league and just laid waste to stadiums and gave us the greatest Monday Night Football game ever, it's pretty safe to say not to sleep on this rivalry. Let me know in the comments if you think that Mahomes has sort of deflected the Madden curse.
Number 9.
Now this one's also in pretty recent memory, although it has kind of faded as the decline of the two teams was pretty evident. More so on the Niners side. However, back during the Jim Harbaugh era of the 49ers, these were pretty hard-fought battles that even took to individual players and coaches taking shots at each other. Most notably Pete Carroll and Jim Harbaugh being longtime rivals since they both played in the Pac-12. There's also Sherman's famous, "Don't you ever talk about me" rant that scared the living shit out of Aaron Andrews. And on top of that, add the fact that these teams met up in the playoffs for a combined 4 games against each other, even going as far as the 2014 NFC Championship game, which was a fierce battle to say nonetheless. The rivalry is once again starting to take shape as both teams are in rebuilding mode. I should say more so on the Niners side because they took much worse of a beating during the offseason from hell after 2014. Number 8. Now, before you click off of this, hear me out. This is a good battle between two rivals in the AFC South that actually does have playoff implications. For instance, you had the great offense led by Blake Bortles and Leonard Fournette on the side of the Jaguars, which propelled them all the way to the 2017 AFC Championship game. Although they haven't had as much playoff success, though you can't rule out the great defense. And come on, DeAndre Hopkins has to be at least the 3rd best receiver in the league right now. So you can't sleep on the Texans either. I mean, just take a look on who you have on either side of the offense. You have Gardner Minshew going up against Deshaun Watson. Come on! How is that not a fun game?
Number 7.
Okay, so the Rams haven't met up with the Seahawks as much in the playoffs as the Niners had, but at the same time, this is a truly hard-fought fight between the two best teams in the NFC West. You have Seattle, who's had a decent offseason with signings like Jadeveon Clowney and had the drafting of DK Metcalf, and at the same time, you have the juggernaut that is the Rams' defense and offense. So add the hatred between the two cities, and this is a bloodthirsty fight between LA and Seattle.
Number 6.
Now, this one also goes back to the 80s, actually, I should say. This initially started between Buddy Ryan and Mike Ditka after Buddy Ryan sort of split with the 85 Bears and sailed off to the head coaching job in Philadelphia. Now, of course, I can't go further without mentioning the Fog Bowl game. This one is more based on fate and just a true dislike for one another. and just some great playoff games that have given us, like the aforementioned Fog Bowl, and I guess most notably in recent memory, the Double Doink. Also, you have the great offense led by Carson Wentz and Nelson Aguilar going up against the riding high defense of Khalil Mack. So, I mean, you can't count that out. That's a good matchup. Vietnam flashbacks. Oh, that never gets old to me. Oh, I'm sorry, Bears fans. Feel like Parky can't even enter the city without being in fear of his life for this moment. Look, there it is, there it is. Oh, sorry. Number 5. Okay, I just want to say this. NFL Films was fucking retarded for how low they put this down there. I just have to say, this is one of the all-time greatest rivalries of the NFL, and it'll continue to be so. I don't care about the 40s, 50s, or 60s, or how long the battles took place. It's still taking shape. Look at the matchups, the 2010 NFC Championship game, the recent playoff strings, and most notably, now you have a killer defense on the side of Chicago going up against the high-octane offense of Green Bay. Number 4. Now, I should point out, 5 Points hates both these teams. I'm sorry, poor Giants fan. And I should also mention how much these teams hate each other. Like, Bloods and Crips get along like best buds compared to how these two clubs get along. For instance, there's been multiple times that Philly fans have thrown things ranging from rocks, snowballs, and batteries at the Cowboys entering the Players' Tunnel, but at the same time, the Cowboys have absolutely murdered them in the postseason, and Philly wasn't able to get over the hump until 2017. I'm still going to dispute that. They fucking won because Malcolm Jenkins knocked the shit out of Brandon Cooks and no flag was thrown. Anyway, considering the high-caliber offenses on both sides, this will be a matchup for the ages. Number 3. Now, this is what I call a rivalry. It's not the hatred, because there really isn't much, but it's rather the playoff implications and just, man, this is a fun game to watch. One side, you have the NFL's premier Dark Galactic Empire in the fucking Patriots. I fucking hate the Patriots. And you have the human cheat code that is Pat Mahomes and the explosive combination that is the Chiefs offense. Now, considering the matchup from last year's AFC Championship, how can this not make this list? It's amazing. Look at them. You get two generations of old and new crashing head on. How can this not be a recipe for something amazing? This is just like that Monday night game between my team and the Chiefs last year, cranked up to 12 every time these two teams meet up. Although I will say the Pats are kind of babies because of the refs. I'm sorry, but how is that pat on his chest a fucking roughing the passer? Come on! Number 2. Well, you guys obviously know my stance on this, but this rivalry also has roots going all the way back to the 70s, 80s, and 90s. I mean, for instance, the Saints were the only team to actually beat the greatest show on turf in the postseason other than the Patriots after a shocking upset in the wild card round. However, these two teams faced off multiple times as the Saints and Falcons actually used to be relegated to the NFC West before the NFL switched to an 8-division league. Also, I should point out, you also have the bludgeoning matchups between the two teams. You have the 2018 NFC Championship game, and just multiple playoff games in particular. But expect more to come. This is going to be a great, great battle. Number 1. Now, this one is sure to trigger Tree. However, I just will say, this is a battle of new and old. You have the former dominating empire of the Steelers clashing up against the babied model franchise of the NFL. Seriously, fuck the Patriots. Anyway, more to the point. Sorry, I'm too biased. Both teams are now tied for the most number of titles. And I will note, albeit the Steelers are in a bit of a downward spiral, though, you can't disagree with me here. Considering the matchups they've had in the postseason and just the overall dislike between the two clubs, this is definitely a clash between new and old. Albeit the Steelers are kind of in need of a little work, I should say. I'm sorry about that. I can't get into this tree, I'm sorry. But nevertheless, this is still a pretty good matchup between the two. Just expect more playoff games that the Steelers can get their shit together and get back on track. Oh, come on. I had you guys picked on my fantasy team. Well, I feel bad for, like, James Conner. He didn't really have much of a choice. Same with Juju, another SC standout. Should also point out that the Steelers still have a decent offense, albeit without Ben. And problem is that might hinder whatever hope they have. Anyway, that's my list. Hope you enjoyed it, and I just wanted to make sure that these were 10 matchups that actually mattered. Anyway, thank you guys. Be sure to like and subscribe.